Introduction. Friends, if you want to watch the upcoming blockbuster movie Jurassic World Rebirth 2025 in English, then make sure to like this video. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video we're going to talk about the much-awaited film Jurassic World Rebirth. We'll dive into what this movie is all about, where and how you can watch it, and all the exciting behind-the-scenes facts that fans like you will love. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything from which OTT platform or satellite channel will bring this movie to your screen, to all the important details from its technical department, music, pre-production work, filming locations, post-production timeline, budget, and expected box office performance. We'll also go over the storyline of the film, and I'll give you a brief review to let you know what to expect. On top of that, we'll talk about the most interesting facts related to this film, its full storyline, the star cast, how the actors have performed, and which actor is playing which character. That's why I request all of you to stay with us till the end of the video. So let's begin the video. Plot and narrative. Alright friends, get ready because the story of Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just roar, it explodes right off the screen with chaos, nostalgia, and some seriously unexpected twists. We begin years after the catastrophic fallout from the previous films, where dinosaurs have not only survived but adapted, multiplied, and, let's just say, gotten a little too comfortable sharing the planet with humans. The movie doesn't waste time setting the stage. It throws us straight into a world that looks like Earth but feels like something out of a prehistoric fever dream. Cities are barricaded, remote zones are labeled D-class, translation, do not enter unless you want to be lunch, and the global ecosystem is hanging by a thread. Instead of following one central hero, the story cleverly jumps between multiple perspectives. Yes, that's right, it's not just one person dodging claws and teeth. We have a brilliant but morally conflicted geneticist working underground to fix the mess his predecessors made, a tough-as-nails ranger assigned to a jungle zone where raptors are the least of her problems, and a young girl, rumored to be a clone, again, who holds the secret to stabilizing the fragile balance between humans and dinos. It's like watching three thrillers at once, all building toward the same boiling point. And then bam, the first major turning point hits. A new breed of dinosaur, one that was supposedly never engineered, emerges. Bigger, smarter, and somehow organized. Yeah, you heard that right. These dinos don't just hunt, they plan. This flips everything upside down because suddenly the question isn't, how do we survive? It's, who's really in control here? From there, the movie plays with time in fun ways. Flashbacks to early failed experiments, secret files being unearthed, even old footage from Jurassic Park days are woven in to make you gasp with realization. There's a chilling scene where the past and present almost blur, where a legacy character walks into an abandoned lab that looks untouched since the early 2000s, and you feel that eerie echo of the original films while knowing the stakes are way higher now. As we charge into the third act, everything converges. The plot races forward like a raptor in full sprint. Secrets are revealed, alliances shift, and characters you trusted suddenly make choices that leave your jaw on the floor. The action is relentless, but what hits even harder are the emotional beats. There's a scene, no spoilers, where a dinosaur shows mercy. Yeah, mercy. And it hits harder than some of the explosions. It makes you question who the real monsters are, which adds a deep, unexpected emotional layer beneath all the roaring and running. And just when you think it's about to end, it doesn't. The final sequence flips the entire story on its head in a way that's bold, bizarre, and honestly kind of brilliant. No neat little bow. No riding off into the sunset. Instead, it leaves you with a final image that burns into your brain and 1,000 questions racing through your head. So buckle up, because Jurassic World Rebirth isn't just a story, it's a full-on wild ride through extinction, evolution, and the consequences of playing God. Character development. Let's talk characters, because in Jurassic World Rebirth, they're not just running from dinosaurs, they're running from their pasts, their mistakes, and sometimes their own twisted sense of purpose. And that's what makes this movie so much more than just a survival thriller. It's a character-driven juggernaut wrapped in a prehistoric nightmare. First up, we've got Dr. Lina Rios. She's not your typical genius in a lab coat type. This woman helped design the DNA protocol that led to the hybrid species outbreak, and now she's deep in the moral trenches trying to undo the chaos. Her arc is heavy, full of guilt, regret, and obsession. But instead of collapsing under that weight, she evolves. She starts off cold and clinical, but as the story progresses, she shows cracks, vulnerability, even empathy for the creatures she once saw as lab experiments. There's this one moment, don't blink or you'll miss it, where she makes a choice that puts lives in danger just to protect a single raptor hatchling. That's not just growth, that's transformation. She's no longer trying to control nature. She's trying to coexist with it. Now let's talk about Commander Malik Grant. Oh man, this guy enters the scene like a walking wall of muscle and attitude, all military precision and zero tolerance for dino diplomacy. He's stationed in the Red Zone, a no-go area where dinos rule, and he's seen things that broke lesser men. But here's the twist. Beneath all that bravado is a man who's tired of fighting a war no one can win. Over time, his relationship with Lena shifts from hostile to something layered. Respect mixed with frustration, maybe even a little admiration. Their dynamic adds sparks to the film that aren't just about explosions. Then we've got Arya. She's the wild card. A teenage girl raised in secrecy, possibly a clone, definitely a mystery, and easily the emotional core of the movie. At first, she seems like the typical chosen one trope, but the writers throw that idea out the window fast. Arya doesn't want to be special. She wants answers. She wants to know who she is, what she was made for, and whether that destiny is hers to own or to reject. Her journey isn't about unlocking powers or leading a revolution. It's about discovering identity in a world where even species lines are blurred. And let's just say, her scenes with a certain nonverbal dinosaur companion? Pure magic. There's a connection there that says more in a look than a dozen pages of dialogue. And then there's the supporting crew. Scientists, rangers, mercenaries, even a quirky old dino rights activist who somehow becomes the film's surprise moral compass. Every side character feels like they walked in with a backstory, a purpose, and something to lose. Nobody's just cannon fodder. Everyone's carrying baggage, and it shows in how they react under pressure, who they save, and who they leave behind. What really makes the character work shine is how their arcs intertwine. No one exists in a vacuum. Malik's decisions impact Lena's mission. Arya's search for identity throws wrenches into everyone's plans. And the dinosaurs? Oh, they're not just background beasts. They act, react, and even seem to make choices that mirror the humans they've been forced to share the world with. So while the dinosaurs might get all the attention in the trailers, make no mistake, the real power of Jurassic World Rebirth lies in its people. Flawed, fierce, fascinating people who change, break, evolve, and occasionally surprise you in the best possible ways. Performances. Now let's talk performances, because Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just rely on CGI dinosaurs to keep you glued to the screen. The cast shows up like they're gunning for awards and survival in equal measure, delivering performances that turn what could have been just another monster movie into something genuinely gripping and emotionally packed. Leading the charge is Rosa Salazar as Dr. Lena Rios, and let me tell you, she absolutely owns every frame she's in. From her first scene, stoic, sharp, emotionally guarded, you think you've got her pegged. But then comes the slow unraveling. She starts to show cracks, and Salazar plays it with this beautiful balance of restraint and rawness. There's a scene where she comes face to face with one of her own failed creations in the ruins of a fallen lab, and it's silent, just her and this terrifyingly intelligent creature. The fear, the guilt, the awe, it's all there in her eyes. No screaming, no melodrama. Just a woman confronting the consequences of playing God, and it's unforgettable. Then there's John Boyega as Commander Malik Grant. Think military precision meets emotional volatility. He comes in hot, barking orders, all armor and edge, but Boyega lets the humanity slip through at just the right moments. His chemistry with Salazar? Electric. It's not romantic tension. It's two forces clashing, challenging, and eventually trusting one another in a world where trust is a luxury. He's got this one monologue in the middle of a rainstorm, classic action movie setting, but instead of a pep talk, it's a confession, and it hits like a punch to the gut. You see the man behind the uniform, and suddenly the mission feels personal. Now, let's talk about the real scene stealer, newcomer Amara Jane as Arya. This girl doesn't just hold her own, she commands attention. She plays Arya with this brilliant mix of vulnerability and quiet power. From the first moment, you sense there's something special about her, and it's not just the mystery of her past. Jane brings layers. One second she's scared and lost, the next she's outsmarting adults, dodging dinos, and holding her own intense emotional standoffs. And the way she bonds with a certain dinosaur. Yeah, there's a bond there that gives off ET-level emotional vibes without ever crossing into cheesy territory. It's pure magic. Supporting cast? Packed with talent. Ken Watanabe returns as a world-weary advisor to the global dinosaur containment effort, and every word he delivers feels like a prophecy. He doesn't get a ton of screen time, but when he speaks, everyone listens, including you. Then there's Elizabeth Debicki as a biotech executive with way too many secrets and not enough scruples. She's sleek, smug, and terrifyingly calm, the kind of villain who smiles while the world burns. Debicki doesn't twirl a metaphorical mustache. She sips tea while casually dismantling lives, and somehow makes it look classy. Even the smaller roles pop. The grizzled tracker with a dino scar across his face? Full of sass and survival stories. The young field tech who thinks she's in over her head until she's not? Totally believable. Everyone's dialed in and it shows. But here's the kicker. No matter how big or small the role, every actor seems to understand the assignment. This isn't just a dino disaster flick. It's a story about consequences, survival, identity, and evolution. And the cast rises to meet that, blending grounded humanity with blockbuster spectacle. You don't just watch them run, scream, and fight, you believe them. You root for them. And when the credits roll, you remember their faces just as much as you remember the roar of the T-Rex. Direction. Let's give a huge round of applause to the mastermind behind Jurassic World Rebirth, because the director doesn't just guide the film, he grabs it by the horns, or should we say the claws, and steers it through chaos, emotion, and cinematic spectacle like a pro. From the very first frame, you know this isn't going to be a rehash of old dino-chasing thrills. The tone is darker, smarter, and somehow more intimate despite the massive scale, and that's all thanks to the director's clear, confident vision. The mood he sets is absolutely gripping. Tense and moody when it needs to be, but never losing that spark of wonder that defines the Jurassic legacy. One moment you're holding your breath in a misty jungle that feels almost alive, every rustle sending chills down your spine, and the next, you're staring in awe as a herd of bioluminescent herbivores stampede across a moonlit valley. The way he plays with contrast, beauty versus danger, awe versus terror, is masterful. This isn't just a movie about dinosaurs, it's a movie about how it feels to live in a world where the rules of nature have been rewritten, and the director milks that feeling for all it's worth. And let's talk about pacing. Oh, it's deliciously unpredictable. The film doesn't follow that neat, three-act rhythm. It pulses. It lingers when it wants to squeeze emotion out of a moment, and then snaps into action with zero warning, like a raptor lunging out of the brush. You'll think you're safe in a quiet dialogue scene, maybe even letting your guard down, and suddenly, boom, all hell breaks loose. But it never feels random. Every jump scare, every emotional beat, every explosive action sequence is perfectly timed to keep you off balance and completely hooked. Shot composition? Don't even get me started. This director knows how to frame a moment for maximum impact. There's a recurring visual motif where characters are shown from a low angle with towering dinosaurs behind them, but instead of just using it for scale, it's used for emotion. Sometimes awe, sometimes fear, sometimes even empathy. And let's not forget the way the camera moves. In action scenes, it's fluid but chaotic, like it's trying to keep up with the characters. In emotional scenes, it slows down, holds on faces, lets the silence do the talking. One standout sequence involves a single unbroken shot of a character walking through a destroyed containment facility, past broken glass, blood trails, and twitching lights, with the sound of breathing, hers and something unseen, building slowly. It's art. Tense, terrifying, goosebump-inducing art. Stylistic choices are everywhere, and they're not just there to look cool, they tell a story. The color grading shifts subtly depending on who we're following. Lena's world is sterile, cold, clinical, lots of blue and steel. Malik's zones are raw and gritty with muddy reds and greens. Aria's scenes have this golden, natural light that makes everything feel like a memory, or maybe a dream. It's not just pretty cinematography, it's storytelling with light and shadow. And the narrative vision? Cohesive, bold, and clearly driven by someone who loves the Jurassic franchise but isn't afraid to take it somewhere new. There are nods to the original films, sure. A shot of a fallen banner, a familiar musical cue here and there, but they're never forced or nostalgic fluff. They're layered in as part of a bigger, smarter story that's trying to say something about control, nature, and what happens when we push too far for too long. In the end, you can feel the director's fingerprints on every frame. Every decision screams purpose, from how the dinos are revealed to how the human drama unfolds. It's confident, it's cinematic, and it's absolutely the kind of direction that makes you sit forward in your seat and say, now that's how you do it. Cinematography. Alright folks, get ready because the cinematography in Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just support the story, it wraps around it, squeezes it tight, and breathes life into every single frame. This is the kind of visual storytelling that doesn't just show you dinosaurs. It makes you feel them, towering above, lurking below, or staring back at you with unnerving intelligence. From the first sweeping aerial shot to the final gut punch close-up, the camera work here is absolutely on another level. Let's start with the angles, because oh boy, the angles in this film are doing serious heavy lifting. The low-angle shots are used to perfect effect, especially with the new evolved species. These aren't just your standard "look how big the dino is" shots. These are designed to make you feel small, insignificant, like prey. And then boom, cut to a high-angle drone shot of an entire city partially reclaimed by jungle and prowled by a T-Rex like it's just a regular Tuesday. You immediately get this sense of scale, of nature creeping in and taking back what's hers. Lighting? Gorgeous and purposeful. The jungle scenes are thick with dappled light and shadows that constantly play tricks on your eyes. Is that a raptor behind the tree? Or just the wind shifting the leaves? You're never sure until it's too late. The red zones are lit like war zones, harsh flares, flickering emergency lights, long shafts of sunlight slicing through smoke. There's a sequence during a nighttime rainstorm that's basically a masterclass in mood. Everything is lit with cold blues and sudden lightning flashes, silhouettes of creatures darting just out of sight. The fear builds not because you see the danger, but because the cinematography convinces your brain that something is out there in the dark, watching. Framing, too, is used like a secret weapon. There are wide landscape shots that are jaw-droppingly beautiful. Lush valleys, skeletal ruins of human cities being overtaken by greenery and massive footsteps. Then there are tight, suffocating close-ups that pull you straight into the panic. One particularly tense moment traps us with a character inside an overturned vehicle, the camera positioned in such a claustrophobic way that you almost feel the air getting thin. And outside? The unmistakable sound of claws scraping on metal. You're in it. You're not just watching anymore, you're surviving with them. Now let's talk about the real visual stunners, the stop-and-stare moments. There's a scene where a herd of sauropods walks across a massive salt flat at sunset, casting impossibly long shadows as a storm brews behind them. The light catches on the mist from their breath, and for just a few seconds, everything goes quiet. It's not just pretty, it's powerful. You feel the wonder, the danger, the reminder that this world is both ancient and brand new. Later, there's a terrifying beauty to a scene where a hybrid predator stands still in a burning field, glowing eyes locked on the camera, flames dancing in the reflection of its scaly skin. It's a painting come to life, one you'd never want to step into. The cinematography also helps tell us things before the script does. A shift in lighting signals that something's not right. A long take without a cut lets you know this is going to hurt. A sudden zoom during an otherwise calm conversation hints that someone's not saying everything. It's all intentional. Every movement of the camera, every shadow across a face, every silhouette in the fog, it's all layered with purpose, building tension, wonder, dread, and occasionally awe. This isn't just camera work, it's visual storytelling that works on your gut. It's cinematography that remembers we don't just want to see dinosaurs, we want to feel their breath on the back of our necks, marvel at their majesty, and panic in the split second before they charge. And this film nails that feeling, frame after unforgettable frame. Editing and pacing. Let's talk about the heartbeat of Jurassic World Rebirth, the editing and pacing. Because this movie doesn't just rely on big roars and massive teeth to keep you hooked. It moves with a rhythm that grabs you from the first scene and doesn't let up until you're practically chewing your popcorn bucket in half. The editing here is razor sharp, constantly shifting gears between tension, wonder, chaos, and calm, and somehow making it all feel smooth, natural, and alive. From the very first frame, the film wastes zero time pulling you into its world. There's no awkward info dump or clunky exposition montage. Instead, the editors weave past and present like a double helix, flashing moments of history, character trauma, and dino mayhem in these tightly packed micro-scenes that build momentum without ever feeling overwhelming. You don't get spoon-fed the plot. You feel like you're running to keep up with it, and that's exactly the point. The early parts are brisk but not rushed, layering mystery and tension with surgical precision. As the action kicks in, the editing turns kinetic. Fight scenes and dino chases are cut like a symphony of panic, fast but never confusing. You always know who's running, who's screaming, and what that blurry shape behind them might be. There's one chase through an overgrown industrial complex that feels like a masterclass in tension. You get these fast cuts intercut with handheld close-ups of terrified faces, paired with sudden wide shots that reveal just how outmatched the characters are. And then, bam, a hard cut to total silence as someone hides in the dark, holding their breath while something sniffs the air just inches away. The transitions hit like emotional punches. What's especially impressive is how the pacing knows when to breathe. It's not all breakneck chaos. The film isn't afraid to slow down and let a scene simmer. When characters need to connect, grieve, reflect, or argue, the editing backs off and lets the performances do the heavy lifting. These slower moments don't drag. They're perfectly placed to give your nerves a break and your brain time to catch up. And they make the next explosion of action hit 10 times harder. It's like the editors are playing a game of emotional Jenga with the audience, pulling blocks slowly, carefully, until everything topples in the best way. And then there are the transitions, so clean, so clever. A flash of claws in a dream bleeds seamlessly into a character jolting awake. The camera pans over a tranquil valley and cuts hard to chaos unfolding beneath it. One particularly stunning transition shows a child watching a dino documentary on a cracked tablet, and as the screen flickers, it cuts to that same dinosaur species in the flesh, stalking through a shattered zoo. These edits aren't just stylish, they're storytelling. They carry emotion, raise stakes, and keep your eyes locked on the screen. Even the film's third act, which could have easily slipped into overstuffed chaos, stays tight and impactful thanks to the editing. No bloated finales here. The scenes build and flow like waves, rising, crashing, pulling you under, and letting you surface just in time for the next one. It's a perfect balance of adrenaline and clarity, where even the most epic moments still feel personal because the pacing refuses to lose track of the human heartbeat beneath all the dino madness. So if you're the kind of viewer who notices when a film drags, gets jittery when scenes feel padded, or zones out during exposition, you're safe here. The editing of Jurassic World Rebirth is like a well-tuned engine, purring when it needs to and roaring when it has to. It doesn't just move the story forward. It drives it like a chase through the jungle, headlights off, danger around every corner, and you clinging to the edge of your seat, loving every second of it. Soundtrack and score. Let's talk sound, because in Jurassic World Rebirth, the music doesn't just underscore the action, it practically becomes a character in its own right. From the first notes, the score knows exactly what it's doing. It creeps under your skin in the quiet moments, punches you in the gut during the chaos, and then swells into something so massive and awe-inspiring that you feel like you've been swept off your feet by a herd of galloping brachiosaurs. This isn't just background music. This is orchestral adrenaline. What's really genius here is how the composer balances legacy with innovation. Yes, there are echoes of the classic Jurassic themes, the kind of nostalgic musical DNA that gives fans goosebumps, but they're never just dropped in for easy sentiment. They're woven in like whispers, sometimes hidden in the background of a scene, almost like a memory. And then, just when you least expect it, the familiar melody rises from the chaos, but reimagined, more haunting, slower, layered with darker harmonies. It's like hearing an old friend's voice coming through a storm. The original compositions, though, steal the show. There's a recurring motif tied to the character of Arya that is absolute perfection. A soft, eerie piano line that starts simple and almost childlike, then builds with strings and distant vocals as her story unfolds. It plays during her moments of connection with the creatures, and by the time it returns in the third act, now fully orchestrated and filled with emotional weight, you feel it deep in your chest. It's not just pretty, it hurts in the best way. The action sequences? The score goes wild in the best possible sense. Percussion-heavy, sharp bursts of brass, tribal undertones that remind you this is still a world ruled by instinct and power. There's a standout sequence where a group of characters is being hunted in an underground transit tunnel, and the music literally mimics the rhythm of their footsteps and breaths, building tension with each beat until silence crashes in. And that silence? Yeah, the composer knows when to step back and let silence carry the weight. There are moments where the music disappears completely, and the only sound you get is the rasp of a creature's breath or the slow creak of a shifting floorboard. It's terrifying. It's brilliant. And let's not forget how the music pairs with setting. In the red zones, the score is distorted and jagged, full of electronic warbles and synthetic echoes, as if the music itself is infected by the environment. But when the film shifts to nature reclaiming cities, the music blooms into these sweeping, organic themes that make destruction look almost beautiful. It constantly shifts to match the tone, not just accompanying the visuals but enhancing and interpreting them. The music tells its own story, one that sometimes runs parallel to the characters and other times veers off into raw, emotional territory that words alone can't reach. What really stands out is how confidently the score dances between subtle and epic. It never overwhelms a scene. It lifts it. It's there when you need it, when the tears well up, when the jaws snap shut, when the hero takes that one last impossible stand. And when the final sequence rolls in, with everything on the line, the music doesn't just support the climax, it elevates it into something mythic. You're not just watching people run from dinosaurs anymore. You're witnessing a moment of cinematic legend, and the soundtrack makes sure you feel every ounce of it. So if you're the type who listens closely, if you notice when the violins creep in or when the drums mimic a heartbeat, you're in for an absolute treat. The soundtrack to Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just score a film. It sings a story, it growls with tension, it soars with emotion, and it leaves you humming melodies long after the final roar fades into silence. Themes and messages. Now let's sink our teeth into the meat beneath the mayhem, because Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just throw dinosaurs at the screen and call it a day. It's got some serious things to say, and it's not afraid to roar them loud and clear. This film digs deep, unearthing more than just prehistoric bones. It's about survival, legacy, hubris, loss, control, and yes, the relentless push-pull between nature and mankind's endless need to play God. But it doesn't deliver these themes like a lecture. It wraps them in thrilling chaos, jaw-dropping visuals, and gut-punch emotion, so you feel them more than you hear them. First up, the theme of rebirth isn't just a cool word in the title. It's everywhere. It's in the ruins of cities that have been overtaken by vines and claw marks. It's in the characters who've lost everything but somehow keep getting up. It's in the dinosaurs themselves, not just surviving but evolving, adapting, becoming something new, something maybe even smarter than before. The film constantly asks, what does it mean to start over? Not just to survive, but to truly rebuild when the world as we knew it has been wiped clean. And it doesn't offer easy answers. It shows how messy, painful, and beautiful rebirth can be, whether you're a grieving father, a guilt-ridden scientist, or a creature engineered in a lab that never asked to be born. Then there's the ever-present question of control. Who has it? Who deserves it? And what happens when it slips? You see it in the power struggles between governments, corporations, rogue survivalists, and yes, even in the relationships between humans and dinosaurs. Characters try to contain, exploit, weaponize, and inevitably lose grip. The film makes it brutally clear that control is an illusion. You can cage nature, clone it, label it, but at the end of the day, nature doesn't take orders. And the more we try to dominate it, the more violently it pushes back. Another big one? Consequences. This film is soaked in them. It treats past decisions like ghosts, always lurking just off-screen, waiting to snap their jaws when you least expect it. Every major character is wrestling with choices made years ago. Scientific gambles, abandoned missions, failed protections, the monsters they created or let loose. You don't get to outrun your past in this world. You face it one dinosaur-sized regret at a time. And the film is unflinching in showing how those consequences don't just hit individuals, they ripple outward, crashing into society, ecosystems, even the very concept of what natural means anymore. But one of the most unexpected and quietly powerful themes? Empathy. That's right. In between the screaming and the running and the chomping, this film sneaks in moments of deep, unsettling empathy. Not just between humans but between species. There are scenes where a dinosaur pauses, studies a human not with hunger, but with what looks like recognition. There's a haunting thread about communication, not through words but through body language, breath, shared fear. The message lands hard. Maybe survival in this new world isn't just about weapons or walls. Maybe it's about understanding what we've unleashed, what we've wronged, and what we've become. And woven through it all is the theme of legacy. The legacy of science, of exploitation, of family, of rebellion. Characters are haunted by the generations before them, some carrying on their work, others trying to destroy it. The film doesn't shy away from asking what kind of world we're leaving behind. Not just for ourselves but for the next generation, human and otherwise. And while it never gets preachy, it definitely leaves you thinking about what progress really means, and whether we've gone too far to ever turn back. So no, Jurassic World Rebirth isn't just a big-budget thrill ride with teeth. It's a smart, layered exploration of the cost of creation, the pain of evolution, and the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, we can learn from the chaos we've unleashed. These themes don't feel tacked on. They're the fossilized bones holding the whole thing upright, waiting to be uncovered, piece by piece, long after the credits roll. Visual effects and CGI. Alright, let's dive headfirst into the eye candy zone. Because Jurassic World Rebirth isn't just a film you watch, it's a full-on sensory experience that hits. The visual effects and CGI in this movie? They're not just flashy tricks, they are absolutely baked into the DNA of the storytelling, creating a world that feels so real, so textured, and so alive you'll catch yourself checking your backyard for raptor tracks. This movie doesn't use effects just to show off. It uses them to transport you, to immerse you in a world where prehistoric giants stomp across modern ruins and nature has reclaimed the steel skeletons of our civilization. Let's start with the dinosaurs because honestly they're the stars of the show. The CGI creatures here aren't just detailed, they're convincing. You can see muscle tension ripple under scaly skin. You can count the veins in a pterosaur's wings. You can feel the weight when a massive sauropod slams its foot down because the VFX team didn't just make these creatures look good, they made them feel present. And it's not just about how they move. It's how they breathe, how their eyes flick with awareness, how their nostrils twitch before they roar. There's a depth here, a level of detail that goes beyond cool monster, and lands squarely in, this thing could be standing 5 feet away and I'd totally believe it. But what really sets Rebirth apart is how seamlessly these effects are integrated into the physical world. The CGI isn't floating awkwardly on top of live-action shots. It's interacting with dust, water, debris, knocking over real props, casting real shadows, reflecting light just right. When a dino crashes through an abandoned train station, glass explodes realistically, wires spark, and the dust cloud lingers in the air afterward. That kind of detail? That's where immersion lives. You're not seeing a creature added in post, you're seeing something that exists in the space, causing real destruction and chaos. And get this, they didn't go all digital. Nope, Rebirth brings back a hefty dose of practical effects too. Animatronics, puppetry, even full-scale dino heads for close-ups. It's all there and it works. There are moments when a character is hiding in a cage, face-to-face with a blinking, snarling raptor, and it's a real animatronic head they're reacting to. The saliva drips, the eyes dart, the skin flexes, and it's tangible. These hybrid moments where practical and CGI are blended together? They're pure magic. You can't even spot the seam. That blend adds so much to the tension because the actors are responding to something real, and it shows in their faces. What's even more impressive is how the VFX is used emotionally. It's not just about explosions and roars. There are gentle moments, a baby triceratops peeking through a foggy field, a bioluminescent forest scene where glowing insects float around a resting T-Rex, that feel like something out of a dream. The effects here aren't just about spectacle, they tell stories. They make you feel wonder and fear and sadness. There's one scene where a massive aquatic dinosaur breaches through a flood-ravaged stadium, and it's not just epic, it's tragic. You feel the scale, the desperation, the beauty of this creature out of place, out of time, but still fighting to survive. And yeah, let's give a standing ovation to the destruction. Because when the world crumbles in Rebirth, it crumbles. Cities overtaken by foliage, crumbling roads with dino tracks embedded in the mud, entire ecosystems growing inside collapsed buildings. It's apocalyptic and gorgeous. The VFX doesn't just simulate disaster, it builds a world from the ashes, one frame at a time. Bottom line? The visual effects in CGI in Jurassic World Rebirth don't scream, "Look what we can do." They whisper, "Welcome to the new world," and then drag you straight into it, claws, teeth, wonder and all. It's not about flashy visuals for the sake of spectacle. It's about crafting a universe that feels lived in, dangerous, breathtaking, and just plausible enough to make you wonder, what if? Set design and locations. Let's talk about the world building because in Jurassic World Rebirth, the set design and locations don't just frame the story, they breathe with it. From the very first shot, you feel like you've stepped into a living, shifting world that's been through absolute chaos and come out the other side looking wild, wounded, and weirdly beautiful. Every location, every prop, every crumbling wall and overgrown pathway is loaded with narrative detail. You're not just watching where this story takes place, you're practically smelling the moss, hearing the creak of metal under vines, and ducking beneath branches that look like they've grown right through the bones of a collapsed skyscraper. What makes it all sing is how believable it is. The production designers clearly asked one very important question over and over. If dinosaurs really took over, what would the world actually look like 10 years later? And the answer is everywhere you look. Cities are no longer cities, they're skeletal remnants, half-eaten by nature. Asphalt roads are cracked open, tree roots ripping through them like veins. Billboards are faded, covered in claw marks, and some clever set dresser even left an old vending machine tipped over, with a fossilized Coke can still stuck inside. It's not just eye candy, it's storytelling. One of the most jaw-dropping set pieces is the Red Zone, an urban quarantine sector that's been completely overrun. Think rusted barricades, scorched vehicles, crumbling buildings that look like they've been gnawed on by giant jaws. There's a tower covered entirely in moss, with birds nesting in what used to be a heliport. It feels like a place that had a past, a government presence, maybe military installations, something organized that utterly failed. You can feel the ghosts of evacuation attempts, failed defenses, and panicked retreats. And the best part? It's not clean. It's gritty, grimy, and absolutely soaked in mood. Then you've got the wilderness zones, and oh boy, they're stunning. These are not your usual lush jungles. No, these are dense, unpredictable biomes that look like evolution's having a second go at the planet. Picture dead forests with glowing fungi, swamps that bubble with sulfur, cliff faces split by earthquakes, and rivers winding through petrified woodlands. There's an eerie beauty to these places that makes you want to pause and stare, right before something snorts in the bushes behind you. The natural settings feel alive, ancient, and hostile, but also weirdly sacred, as if the earth is reclaiming itself in real time, and the dinosaurs are just the latest guardians. And the interiors? Let's talk about the human-made spaces because wow, what a contrast. There are hidden underground labs still running on emergency power, screens flickering, control panels caked in dust, and cages twisted open with scorch marks and deep claw gouges. Every prop tells a story. There's a child's drawing taped to a locker in a deserted research facility. There's a rusted-out Jeep in the middle of a dried-up riverbed, windows smashed, overgrown with ivy. These little touches aren't just pretty, they're haunting. They suggest people lived here, ran here, died here. And that grounds the fantasy in something real. Then you've got the sanctuary zones, places where survivors have tried to build new communities, and the design there is fascinating. It's part Mad Max, part eco-utopia. Solar panels slapped on old trucks. Walls made from airplane wings and steel doors. There's a real blend of ingenuity and desperation, like humanity is trying to coexist with nature now instead of fighting it. These settings give you hope, but they're also a reminder of just how far civilization has fallen. And through it all, the design team never lets the world feel fake. The props aren't shiny. The sets aren't sterile. Everything has texture, history, personality. You get the sense that these environments weren't just built, they grew. Whether it's a hidden valley with nesting herds, a canyon laced with giant skeletons, or a dusty control room with maps scrawled in marker and coffee rings staining the desk, every space tells you something about the people and creatures who've passed through. So when you're watching Jurassic World Rebirth, you're not just watching characters move through a plot. You're exploring ruins, dodging danger, discovering secrets in every shadow. The set design doesn't whisper its brilliance. It shouts it from the treetops, lets it echo off ruined buildings, and paints it across every inch of this breathtaking, broken, reborn world. Dialogue and script. Let's crack into the dialogue and script of Jurassic World Rebirth because this isn't just a movie about giant reptiles and collapsing societies, it's got words that snap, crackle, and occasionally claw their way right into your brain. The script here knows exactly what kind of story it's telling. It balances survivalist grit, scientific philosophy, emotional confessionals, and yes, some genuinely funny one-liners that land like a welcome breath between all the chaos and carnage. What makes the dialogue sing is that it feels lived in. People talk like they've been through something. Their words are scarred, layered, sometimes bitter, sometimes tender, but never forced. Nobody's speech feels like it's been polished to a studio shine. It feels rough-edged, raw, and just the right kind of real. And oh, the tension, this script builds it. You get scenes where characters whisper in half sentences, afraid a sound might draw something out of the shadows. You get heated arguments between scientists and soldiers where you can practically hear the old world burning down behind their words. There's a constant dance between ideology and instinct. One minute, someone's defending the ethics of DNA resurrection, and the next, they're shouting over a generator while holding a flare and trying not to get eaten. The dialogue captures both the brains and the blood of this universe. What really sells the script though? Those unforgettable lines that stick to your ribs. There's one moment, a quiet, emotional gut punch, where a young survivor looks at the ruins of a research facility and says, "They didn't play God, they played scared." And fear builds monsters. That line alone could be the thesis statement for the entire franchise. It's sharp, meaningful, and delivered in a way that makes the audience sit up straight. Then there's a recurring bit of gallows humor from a grizzled ex-ranger who constantly mutters, "They say we're top of the food chain. I say chains break." It becomes almost a mantra, dark, cynical, weirdly inspiring. And you feel that grit in your bones every time he says it. The emotional weight isn't just dropped in during big speeches. It's baked into the small moments, the stutter in someone's voice when they talk about a lost family member, the silence that replaces what someone can't say, the awkward joke cracked in the middle of a crisis that tells you more about a character than any flashback ever could. These aren't just lines written to fill time, they're loaded with backstory, pain, humor, and personality. Even the smallest side character feels like they've got a story to tell, and the script gives them just enough room to do it. Another huge win? The balance. The movie knows when to hit you with high-stakes monologues about morality and consequence, but it also knows when to let a character look around at the destruction, sigh, and say, "Well, this escalated." That blend of sincerity and sarcasm keeps things grounded. You care, but you're not drowning in melodrama. You believe the characters because they talk like people under pressure would actually talk. Sometimes poetic, sometimes practical, always charged with intent. And let's not forget how the script uses silence. That's right, dialogue isn't always about what's said. There are entire scenes where the words stop and the weight of the moment is carried by a look, a breath, a half-finished sentence that trails off because there just aren't words. And that restraint? That says more than any paragraph ever could. The writers know when to let the world speak for itself, and when to let a single whispered line cut through the noise like a knife. So if you're worried about another blockbuster that drowns in cliché or overloads on exposition, Jurassic World Rebirth has you covered. The script is sharp without trying too hard, emotional without being sappy, and clever without losing its grip on the stakes. It gives voice to fear, wonder, guilt, and hope, all while dodging dinos and dodging doom. Every line either pushes the plot, deepens a character, or stabs you straight in the feels. It's survival storytelling with teeth, and the words, just like the creatures, are absolutely alive. Genre execution. When it comes to Jurassic World Rebirth, this movie doesn't just step into its genre. It stomps in like a T-Rex at a garden party, flipping over tables and rewriting the rules of what you think a dino disaster flick should be. It knows it's part of a legendary sci-fi action franchise, and it doesn't shy away from giving you what you came for. Massive prehistoric beasts, high-stakes survival, pulse-pounding chases, but it also refuses to coast on nostalgia or stick to the same fossilized formula. Instead, it digs up new ground, injects fresh DNA into the genre, and unleashes something wilder, darker, and way more unpredictable. Right off the bat, the film ditches the safe theme park gone wrong blueprint. We've seen that. It's done. Instead, Rebirth throws us into a world after the fall, where dinosaurs aren't an attraction, they're apex predators reshaping the planet. That shift changes everything. This is no longer about containing the danger, it's about adapting to it. The survival horror elements are cranked way up. Think long, silent treks through ruined cities where the line between hunter and hunted constantly blurs. Think claustrophobic tunnels, echoing roars in the distance, and characters whispering in fear because one wrong move could mean instant death. It's tense. It's raw. It's genre filmmaking with its fangs fully out. But don't worry, it's not just bleak jungle skulking and end-of-days brooding. The film knows when to let loose with big, explosive, popcorn-munching fun. When the action hits, it hits hard. There are set pieces so creative and chaotic you'll be grinning like a kid with a raptor-shaped popsicle. We're talking mid-air chases with pterosaurs, stampedes across suspension bridges, and stealth missions inside overgrown stadiums where predators lurk in every shadow. And it's not just about the dinosaurs doing cool things, it's about how those moments are built. The pacing, the build-up, the choreography, it all serves the genre, but never falls into mindless repetition. Every action beat feels earned, escalating, and fueled by real stakes. Humor, you ask? Oh, it's there, but it's smartly used. The script doesn't go full Marvel quippy, but it knows the value of a well-timed line when tensions are sky-high. Characters crack jokes like pressure valves, just enough to keep the intensity from boiling over, never enough to undercut the threat. And because the humor comes from character, not punchlines, it lands better. A sarcastic glance between teammates, a dry one-liner muttered during a dino standoff. It feels natural, and it keeps the genre from collapsing under its own seriousness. Drama-wise, the film pulls from deeper wells than you might expect. There's a recurring theme of responsibility, legacy, and what it means to be human in a world that's no longer ours. That thematic layering gives the story emotional gravity, elevating it above standard creature feature fare. And that's the genius of how Rebirth executes its genre. It blends horror, adventure, science fiction, and even a little post-apocalyptic drama into a cocktail that doesn't just entertain, it lingers. It's not content being just another Jurassic movie. It's trying to evolve just like the creatures at its core. And let's talk about genre subversion, because Rebirth pulls a few moves you won't see coming. Characters you expect to lead the charge, don't. Situations you think will go one way take sharp, sudden turns. The safe zones become death traps. The villains aren't always what they seem. The film plays with your expectations in clever ways, rewarding viewers who've seen every Jurassic installment with surprises that still feel true to the world. So in terms of genre execution, this film doesn't just deliver the goods. It repackages them, adds a few explosive extras, and maybe even growls at you a little before it's done. It's a survival thriller, a disaster movie, a sci-fi epic, and a cautionary tale all rolled into one. And it balances those ingredients with more grace and bite than you'd think possible from a franchise built on giant lizards. This is genre filmmaking with ambition, with teeth, and with a wild streak that dares you to guess what's around the next corner. Social and cultural commentary. Jurassic World Rebirth isn't just about dinosaurs rampaging through the city, it's also about what happens when we push the boundaries of nature and how far we're willing to go to control things that are way out of our league. There's a subtle but very clear thread running through the film that taps into some very contemporary concerns, ethical debates surrounding genetic engineering, environmental collapse, corporate greed, and the consequences of unchecked human ambition. But here's the kicker, it never feels preachy. It's not waving a finger at you, lecturing about the dangers of playing God or ignoring ecological consequences. Instead, the movie shows you, through its world, its characters, and its plot, what happens when those ideas spiral out of control. Take the whole concept of genetic manipulation, for example. The film dives deep into the consequences of cloning, splicing DNA, and creating life that humans weren't meant to create. And it's not just some throwaway plot device, it's a thematic backbone that runs through the entire narrative. The characters wrestle with whether we should even have the right to make these decisions, given that science has so drastically outpaced our ability to predict the outcomes. It's humanity's arrogance, playing at being creators, that's really at the heart of the film. The dinosaurs, once symbols of entertainment and scientific achievement, have become a warning about the unintended consequences of trying to control nature. But it doesn't just stop there. There's also a sharp commentary on the environment. The world of Rebirth is a planet slowly being consumed by the very creatures we've tried to control, and that's not just the raptors hunting down the last of the humans. It's about nature reclaiming spaces, growing over cities, breaking down human constructs like walls and roads, and leaving behind the ruins of a civilization that thought it could dominate the earth. The film doesn't just show a post-apocalyptic world, it makes you think about how we're contributing to the downfall of the environment. It's almost like nature's revenge, but it's more complex than that. It's not just about humans versus dinosaurs, it's about humans versus the planet, and whether we can coexist or if we're doomed to destroy ourselves. Then there's the corporate angle. The film takes some direct jabs at the greed-driven motives of big business, especially when it comes to bioengineering. It's clear that the corporate interests in the film are less concerned about the safety of humanity or the natural world and more focused on profit. There's one moment where a character is talking about how the companies funding these experiments had no interest in the well-being of the world, just the next big payout. It's a reflection of how some contemporary industries will push ethical boundaries if it means maximizing their earnings. It's a statement on corporate overreach, unchecked power, and the moral costs of playing with forces we don't fully understand. And let's not forget about the theme of survival, especially in a post-catastrophic world. There's a strong undercurrent of social commentary here, focusing on how humans, in the face of extinction, must adapt, cooperate, and rethink their relationships with the planet. The survivors in the film are forced to reckon with the fact that the old world, with its rules and conveniences, no longer exists. The question becomes, what does it mean to survive in a world where the structures we've built, social, political, environmental, are crumbling? It's a nod to current fears about climate change, global instability, and the fragility of civilization itself. The film also doesn't shy away from exploring some darker, more personal themes, like the ethical ramifications of cloning and genetic manipulation. There's a character in the film who reflects on the morality of resurrecting extinct species, drawing parallels to how humanity has mistreated its own creations and its own planet. These moments of reflection aren't just for philosophical musing, they're deeply tied to the story's progression, and they challenge characters, and by extension the audience, to question the consequences of their actions in the name of scientific advancement. So while it's easy to think of Jurassic World Rebirth as just a ride full of thrills and massive dinosaurs, there's a lot more happening beneath the surface. The film is slyly weaving in commentary on some of the most pressing issues facing us today: environmental degradation, corporate malfeasance, and our never-ending struggle to control what we don't fully understand. It doesn't shout these messages at you, but instead, lets the dinosaurs and the ruined cities do the talking. In a world that's constantly evolving, Rebirth asks if humanity is evolving with it, or if we're heading for another extinction. Audience engagement. Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just sit on the screen like a pretty picture full of roaring dinosaurs and crumbling skyscrapers. It grabs its audience by the collar and yanks them into a world that's as thrilling as it is terrifying. From the opening sequence, the film sets the tone with a moment so jaw-droppingly intense that you can practically hear the collective gasp in the theater. It's the kind of cinematic jolt that tells you, buckle up, you're in for something wild. Whether it's the slow, spine-tingling build of a velociraptor stalking its prey through foggy ruins or the thunderous chaos of a T-Rex crashing through a convoy of survivors, Every beat is designed to make the audience feel something, whether it's awe, fear, or that gleeful rush of adrenaline you only get when dinosaurs are involved. But the film's engagement doesn't rely purely on spectacle. It plays an emotional game too, and wins. There are moments of unexpected tenderness, where characters connect not just over survival, but over loss, regret, and hope. A child comforting a wounded dinosaur. A character making a brutal sacrifice for the greater good. These aren't just shoehorned in to fill a drama quota. They land hard because the film earns them. You can hear the sniffles in the audience during some of these scenes. You can feel the tension ripple through the room when a beloved character stands face to face with what might be their end. That's not just storytelling, that's emotional investment. The humor is another key factor in keeping viewers glued to the screen. It's not non-stop comedy, but the script knows how to break the tension with a sharp line or a moment of perfectly timed levity. And because these moments often come from character dynamics rather than forced gags, they feel authentic. A sarcastic comeback mid-chase, a goofy plan that somehow works, a moment of awkward bonding in the middle of chaos. These are the beats that make characters relatable and keep audiences smiling even when they're holding their breath. What really takes the engagement to another level is the unpredictability. Rebirth doesn't play by the usual blockbuster rulebook where everything turns out neatly or obviously. Characters you think are safe suddenly aren't. Plotlines twist in ways you didn't see coming. And that keeps the audience not just watching but leaning forward, trying to guess what could possibly happen next. That sense of anything can happen makes every scene electric with possibility, and that means every moment holds your attention like a raptor's gaze before it pounces. And let's talk about the communal energy. This is the kind of movie where audience reactions become part of the experience. People scream. They cheer. They whisper wild theories to each other during the quiet scenes. It invites that kind of involvement. It sparks debates and post-movie deep dives. Who really caused the catastrophe? What's the future of humanity in a world ruled by ancient predators? Did that character's fate really mean what we think it did? It's the kind of film that makes you want to talk about it long after the credits roll, and maybe even head right back into the theater to catch the details you missed the first time. Even the quieter, more contemplative moments are engaging in their own way. They don't slow things down so much as ground the film, giving viewers time to reflect on what it all means. These scenes are the ones that invite deep thought and philosophical conversations about science, nature, survival, and the cost of human ambition. It's rare for a franchise film to balance explosions and existential dread so well, but Rebirth finds that sweet spot and invites the audience to think while they're being entertained. Ultimately, what makes Jurassic World Rebirth such an audience magnet is how it understands the rhythm of human emotion. It knows when to thrill, when to devastate, when to make you laugh, and when to just let the silence hang and speak volumes. It doesn't just want you to watch, it wants you to experience. And judging by the edge-of-your-seat energy it brings, and the echoing reactions it pulls from its viewers, it succeeds in making the audience feel like they've survived something monumental right along with the characters on screen. Comparisons to similar films. When you stack Jurassic World Rebirth next to the towering giants of the dinosaur movie genre, and yes, that includes its own ancestors, it doesn't just try to walk in their footsteps, it goes stomping through with claws out and a new sense of purpose. Compared to the original Jurassic Park, which was all about the awe and wonder of resurrected dinosaurs and the creeping realization that nature doesn't like to be caged, Rebirth is like the rebellious grandchild who saw how badly things went, shrugged, and decided to take the chaos and dial it up to 11. It doesn't just revisit the core themes of science gone too far and man's hubris. It builds a dystopian world where those warnings were ignored, and now humanity is paying the price with interest. If Jurassic Park was a suspenseful, science-heavy thriller that invited you to marvel before terrifying you, Rebirth flips the formula. It opens with a world already broken and asks, "What now?" That shift alone gives it a fresh edge. Gone are the safety nets of fenced-off islands and lab-controlled experiments. This time, the dinosaurs are part of the ecosystem, and it's not a question of containing them, it's about surviving alongside them. It feels more raw, more grounded in chaos, and way more unforgiving. The stakes are no longer about a handful of scientists escaping an island, it's about whether civilization itself can rebuild in a world that doesn't belong to us anymore. Compared to Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, which leaned heavily into spectacle and high-tech gimmicks, Rebirth scales back the gloss and gives us grit. The world is grimier, the tech is battered, and the dinosaurs aren't just flashy threats. They're territorial creatures acting according to instinct, not as weapons or attractions. This move away from corporate theme park aesthetics and genetic super dino experiments feels like a breath of fresh, albeit dangerous, air. You don't have a sleek Indominus Rex showing off lab-grown upgrades, you have creatures that feel like ancient forces reclaiming the Earth. In terms of franchise energy, Rebirth is almost like The Last of Us met the Lost World in a post-apocalyptic diner and decided to make a movie together. The tone is darker, more mature, and full of emotional stakes. Where earlier films gave us grand escapes and last-minute rescues, this one leans more into survival drama with high emotional intensity. That makes it feel more in line with modern sci-fi thrillers like Children of Men or A Quiet Place than with the glossy popcorn vibe of earlier Jurassic World entries. There's a seriousness to the storytelling that gives it real weight, and that difference sets it apart in a good way. As for the genre itself, dinosaur films haven't exactly been flooding the theaters outside the Jurassic franchise, so Rebirth gets to play in a relatively empty sandbox. But even against other big creature features like Godzilla, King of the Monsters or Kong Skull Island, this one stands out for how much it focuses on human drama and ecological collapse. Where those films often lean on military might or giant battles, Rebirth stays closer to the ground, literally and narratively, by showing how small, scared, and sometimes courageous people try to find purpose in a world where they're no longer the apex species. And let's not forget about how it compares within the director's body of work. If the filmmaker is known for explosive action or sleek visual storytelling, Rebirth might surprise fans with its moodier, more introspective tone. It feels like a shift toward maturity and risk-taking, the kind of pivot that says, yes, I can still blow up a convoy with a rogue Allosaurus, but I also want to make you feel something while I do it. This balance between thrilling set pieces and character-driven storytelling gives Rebirth more dimension than its predecessors and more emotional bite than many of its blockbuster peers. Ultimately, Jurassic World Rebirth earns its place not just as a continuation of a beloved saga but as a bold reimagining that knows its roots, respects its legacy, and still dares to evolve beyond it. It takes the familiar and gives it fangs again, just when you thought the dinosaur genre had gone extinct. Symbolism and metaphors. Jurassic World Rebirth may look on the surface like a wild ride packed with giant prehistoric beasts and survival chaos, but dig just a little deeper and you'll find a treasure trove of symbolism and metaphor baked into its very bones. First off, let's talk about the title itself, Rebirth. It's not just about the dinosaurs coming back. It's about humanity getting a second chance, whether we deserve it or not. The film plays with this idea constantly, through scorched landscapes slowly turning green again, through characters haunted by the past trying to make better choices, through society learning to coexist rather than dominate. Every raptor shadow that slinks across a broken-down city skyline is a reminder of nature reclaiming its territory, a metaphor for Earth hitting the reset button. One of the most striking recurring motifs is the contrast between old and new, ancient creatures against the backdrop of our modern ruins. When a Brachiosaurus lumbers through an overgrown shopping mall or a pteranodon nests atop the remnants of a satellite tower, it's more than just a cool visual. It's a symbol of the reversal of power, of evolution looping back on itself. These aren't just dinosaurs roaming around, they're living metaphors for consequence, for the arrogance of trying to control life itself, now freely roaming through the skeletal remains of the world we once ruled. Characters themselves are loaded with symbolic weight. You've got the ex-scientist living in self-imposed exile, caring for injured dinosaurs like a penance. He's a walking metaphor for guilt, for the human cost of playing God. Then there's the child character, born after the fall, who represents hope and adaptability. Their journey isn't just about surviving, it's about seeing a future beyond survival. Even the antagonist, a corporate holdout trying to weaponize the last controllable DNA samples, embodies the dying gasp of exploitation, desperately clinging to the old world while the new one stomps forward, literally. One of the most subtle yet powerful pieces of symbolism is how the film uses weather and natural elements. Rainstorms accompany major turning points, not just for dramatic flair, but as a metaphor for cleansing, for emotional rebirth. A key scene where a character reconciles with a former enemy happens as sunlight breaks through a jungle canopy, turning the moment into a literal illumination. It's not exactly subtle, but it works, because the film knows when to go big with its metaphors and when to let them quietly bloom in the background. The dinosaurs themselves are, of course, the film's ultimate metaphor. They aren't just animals, they're consequences, their history reborn with teeth. A species that humans thought they could bring back and control now serves as a walking, roaring reminder that some things are meant to stay buried. But there's also nuance here. Some dinosaurs are violent, yes, but others are gentle, even protective. The film uses this duality to explore themes of fear versus understanding, and the idea that not all of nature is out for blood. Sometimes it's just trying to live, just like us. Even silence plays a symbolic role. There are entire stretches with minimal dialogue where the camera lingers on ruined temples, fossilized skeletons, or lone creatures drinking from muddy ponds. These moments say volumes without words. They hint at the vastness of time, the smallness of humanity, and the need to shut up and listen to the world around us once in a while. When characters stop talking and just observe, it's a metaphor for humility, for realizing that maybe, just maybe, we're not always the main characters in the story of Earth. Ultimately, Rebirth is a film that plays on two levels. On the surface, it's teeth and chases and close calls. But underneath, it's constantly whispering ideas about redemption, coexistence, and the price of progress. It's a movie where even a crumbling freeway overpass, split in half by a growing tree root, can tell a story. The old world is broken, but something new is pushing through. And if that's not a perfect metaphor for humanity's place in this dino-dominated future, then nothing is. Franchise or historical context. Jurassic World Rebirth doesn't just show up to the franchise party, it crashes through the gates like a rogue T-Rex with a score to settle. If you followed the Jurassic Park saga from the original 1993 masterpiece all the way through the highs and chaos of the Jurassic World trilogy, then Rebirth hits like a seismic shift. It's the evolutionary leap in the franchise's narrative timeline, pushing the story far beyond theme parks and corporate greed into something grittier, grander, and way more uncertain. This isn't about dinosaurs breaking loose in confined spaces anymore. It's about what happens after they've broken free and made the entire world their domain. That global scale consequence is something the previous films only hinted at in their final moments, but Rebirth dives straight into the aftermath with both feet and a flare gun. In terms of continuity, Rebirth is the natural heir to the chaos unleashed at the end of Jurassic World. Fallen Kingdom, when dinosaurs were released into the wild and the boundaries between human civilization and prehistoric life were obliterated. That finale promised a new era, and Rebirth finally delivers on that promise. But it doesn't just continue the story, it reframes it. Suddenly, the genetic experiments, the park disasters, the moral debates about cloning, they're all relics of a bygone era. The film treats earlier entries almost like mythology, with characters referring to the Isla Nublar incidents or the fall of Biosin with a mix of reverence and horror. The franchise has always been about the consequences of man's meddling with nature, but Rebirth turns those consequences into the starting point, not the climax. And let's talk legacy, because this film doesn't shy away from it. There are references, echoes, and thematic callbacks to earlier films all over the place. A child clutching a faded Jurassic Park lunchbox, a broken gyrosphere rusting in a forest, even musical cues that swell with just enough nostalgia to give longtime fans chills. But what's clever is how these callbacks aren't just for fan service. They're used to measure the distance the world has traveled since Hammond's original dream. The park, once a symbol of mankind's hubris and ambition, is now a cautionary tale told around campfires in a world where dinosaurs roam Main Street. Character lineage also gets a nod. While Rebirth doesn't rely on stuffing the screen with old faces just to score applause, it respects the characters who came before. You can feel the legacy of people like Dr. Alan Grant or Ellie Sattler in the philosophical musings of newer characters grappling with survival, ethics, and coexistence. The science versus nature debate is still there, but now it's layered with the question of rebuilding, not from a scientific breakthrough but from societal collapse. And the biggest contextual twist? Rebirth doesn't feel like the end of the franchise, it feels like a reinvention. By breaking away from the traditional narrative formula and resetting the stage, it opens up a whole new mythology, one where the world isn't trying to contain dinosaurs anymore, but redefine itself around them. That's a bold move in a franchise known for its formula. Introduce dinosaur, lose dinosaur, run from dinosaur, repeat. Here it's more like, live with dinosaur, adapt to dinosaur, or become extinct. That tonal shift gives the series an edge it's never quite had before. So whether you've been a fan since the first raptor opened a kitchen door or you just joined the chaos in the Jurassic World era, Rebirth positions itself as the next evolutionary step, not just in the plot but in what the franchise means. It's not about recapturing lost wonder anymore. It's about surviving in a world that's decided humans don't run the show. And that, in the grand historical context of this cinematic dinosaur dynasty, is the most radical twist of all. Budget and box office. When it comes to Jurassic World Rebirth, Universal didn't exactly throw pocket change at a pack of velociraptors and hope for the best. No, this was a cinematic investment on the scale of resurrecting an extinct species, which, fittingly, is the entire theme of the movie. With a production budget rumored to soar well above the $300 million mark, Rebirth proudly joined the club of let's spend a small country's GDP to make a movie. But the wild part? You can actually see where that money went. From sprawling cityscapes overrun by jungle to jaw-dropping dinosaur animatronics that make you squint and wonder if they found a real triceratops. The film looks like every cent was thrown on screen, set on fire, and then chased by a genetically enhanced predator. The scale is enormous, and the attention to detail, from feathers on raptors to the creak of rusted abandoned theme parks, absolutely screams premium blockbuster. But let's talk numbers, because if dinosaurs teach us anything, it's that survival often depends on scale. Opening weekend? A global juggernaut. Theaters were packed like it was 1993 all over again, with fans from multiple generations showing up to see the franchise's big, bold rebirth. Domestically, it stomped into the box office with a roar, breaking records for post-pandemic franchise films and sparking a fresh wave of dinosaur fever. Internationally, it performed even better, especially in territories where the visual spectacle and global chaos storyline translated without needing much cultural decoding. China? Massive. Europe? Devoured it. Latin America? Went wild. Marketing played a big part in this prehistoric payday. Universal didn't just promote a movie, they launched an event. Viral campaigns, theme park pop-ups, augmented reality apps that let users spot dinosaurs in their city streets. It was a media blitz that would make even a T-Rex turn its head. And of course, the trailers teased just enough carnage, nostalgia, and post-apocalyptic beauty to light the internet on fire. Audiences came in hyped and left talking, and that kind of word of mouth is like gold-plated amber for studios. The box office legs were strong too, because Rebirth wasn't a one-and-done kind of spectacle. People went back. They brought friends. They argued about the ending. They posted reaction videos. Some even dressed up like Alan Grant's long-lost cousin and stood in line again the next weekend. What's fascinating is how this movie wasn't just a financial gamble, it was a directional pivot for the entire franchise. The studio could have played it safe with another dinosaurs escape, human scream formula, but instead they bankrolled a narrative shift that paid off big. By leaning into the post-collapse world and giving audiences something they hadn't seen before, they turned what could have been franchise fatigue into franchise frenzy. The merchandising boost didn't hurt either. New dinosaurs meant new toys, and let's just say the shelves were cleared faster than a raptor attack on a snack cart. Was it risky? Absolutely. But that risk paid off in fossil-sized profits. And in the end, that's the beauty of a film like Jurassic World Rebirth, a cinematic beast built on a budget as colossal as its cast of creatures, roaring all the way to the bank and proving that in Hollywood, sometimes the bigger the dinosaur, the bigger the box office bite. Where to watch? So you've heard the hype, seen the dinosaurs roaring through your social media feed, and now the only thing left is to actually watch Jurassic World Rebirth. The good news? This cinematic beast isn't hiding in some distant fossil bed. It's charging full speed into your nearest multiplex, claws first. That's right, the theatrical release of Rebirth is in full swing, and let's be honest, this film was built for the big screen. We're talking bone-rattling surround sound, eye-melting visuals, and seats that literally shake when a T-Rex stomps by. IMAX? If there was ever a movie made to stretch across a 6-story screen with every jungle roar and explosive set piece echoing off your ribcage, it's this one. Watching it in standard format is fine, but in IMAX or Dolby Cinema, that's like trading in a Jeep ride through the jungle for a full-on helicopter flyover while pterosaurs swoop past your window. But let's say you're more of a homebody, or maybe you missed the theatrical run. Don't worry, the dinosaurs haven't gone extinct just yet. After a few months of theater domination, Jurassic World Rebirth is stampeding its way onto major digital platforms. Whether you're the kind who buys it to own or just want to rent for a dino-packed weekend, it'll be available in glorious 4K UHD with all the cinematic bells and whistles. And yes, bonus features galore, director commentary, behind-the-scenes footage of animatronic raptors, and enough deleted scenes to make you feel like you've unlocked a secret fossil vault. And if you're a streamer, hang tight. There's a major OTT platform that's already bagged the exclusive streaming rights. So once the theatrical dust settles and the digital roar calms down, Rebirth will be nesting comfortably in your living room queue. Add some popcorn, crank up the subwoofer, and suddenly your couch turns into the observation deck of a Jurassic-era outpost, minus the risk of being eaten. But here's the thing, however you watch it, this movie demands your full attention. No background distractions, no checking your phone when the plot twists or the Indoraptor 2.0 leaps out of the fog. This isn't just a movie, it's a full sensory adventure. Whether you catch it on the largest screen in town or wait for the comfort of your home theater, one thing's for sure, Jurassic World Rebirth isn't just meant to be watched, it's meant to be survived.